Welcome to The Bottom Line. We are on Long Island, New York, covering the upcoming local elections that are taking place here at the end of the month. In our quest to provide you all the information about the candidates and the issues, we have set up our studio right here. And today we are talking with Mr. Carrie Solanges of Legislative District Number 3. Carrie, thank you so much for being here.
Shukran, shukriya. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here. My name is Carrie Solanges. I represent the Elmont, Valley Stream, South Floral Park, Inwood, North Woodmere, everywhere that touches Queens. That first community when you go into Nassau County, that's the district that I'm so honored and blessed to represent. Thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely.
My district is known as the Ellis Island of Long Island, a beautiful, diverse community where you see many Caribbean people, South Asian people, Italian people, African American, all backgrounds and all religions, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Hindu, all beautiful religions, and we are living in peace and we respect each other. And I think that has influenced me as a legislator, especially as a son of immigrants. I want to make sure that we all have opportunity, not just to simply live, but to thrive and to be successful, especially for our children. So thank you so much for allowing me to be here.
Of course.
Thank you.
Of course. Carrie, you've been doing this for some years now, and you make sure to focus on not just affording opportunities to minority communities so they can survive, like you said, but so they can thrive. Tell us a little bit about the procurement process that you've worked on.
Thank you. I am the ranking member of the Minority Affairs Committee. Our county charter, which is the governing law that creates the county legislature, requires that there be an Office of Minority Affairs that provides certain services to the community and also makes sure that the county complies with the law. And the law states that the county, which is responsible for millions and millions of dollars of taxes that people pay, that money go to vendors that represent all of our communities. And so unfortunately that hasn't been the case. And so ever since I became the ranking member of this committee in December of last year, I have been responsible for making sure that that office includes all communities in the procurement process. I want to make sure that your printing company that happens to be run by a woman from the South Asian community has a chance to participate in getting a contract with the county so that they could, benefit their business but also their community.
Absolutely.
Or that person that has a pencil company, that the county is going to enter a contract with that pencil company so that the county workers can use their pencils. And so that office is responsible for that procurement process. And I also am very happy this year that I've been able to convince my colleagues to pass and support the creation of a Asian American advisory department in the county that now empowers the South Asian community and the Asian community with a place at the table. And so now I'm so happy that that office now can help encourage members of all communities to be part of this procurement process, but also address that office. But the Office of Minority Affairs is also responsible for affirmative action issues. I want to make sure that our schools in our district, for example, if they celebrate Jewish holidays, they should also be celebrating and taking observance for Muslim holidays. Why should the South Asian child who happens to be Muslim miss a day of school just because that school does not recognize that religion? And so I've written letters to the schools in my district asking them to do the same thing that the schools in New York City are doing in that observing Eid and other religious holidays.
And have you had any success with this?
They're open to that, and they were currently discussing this. And I think that as we get more people involved to speak up, that their government is going to start to listen. You see, here in Nassau County, it's not like New York City where you have just one government that's responsible for the police and the schools. Here in Nassau County, you have school boards, you have the town, you have the county, you have the state, so many different layers of government. And so I'm educating people as to if they have an issue, this is who you should call. And these are the letters that you should write to speak up to make sure that your government is serving you.
Absolutely. Carrie, tell us a little bit about some of your key pieces of legislature in your time so far.
I think it's about being a leader and about getting things done. So when it came to our police precinct, the 5th precinct being shut down due to fiscal budget mismanagement, I rallied the community and other leaders and we got it reopened. Or advocating to our state government so that we can have a fully functional train station at Belmont Racetrack, so that now, instead of commuting to New York City, it taking you 3 hours, it takes you an hour, so that you have more time to spend with your family. Or passing legislation to limit the sale of cigarettes to young people, or passing legislation for funding that would get certain projects you need in your community to make things safer, such as road improvements. Many of our roads, unfortunately, are very dangerous. And so I was able to secure funding, not just to make these improvements, but before you can make these improvements, there has to be funding for a traffic study that could show that there are accidents on that road and that road should be safer. And so there are a lot of, like, it may not be as sexy and as cool as what you see that the president is doing, but there are a lot of budgetary issues and initiatives that I've been able to pass and get done for my district so that we could bring home to our community certain funding for projects that we need, whether it be giving funding to our fire departments so that they could have better equipment to save lives, or getting funding to a school district so that they could have a playground for our children. Or recently, in Valley Stream, right near Millbrook, we created a new park that also serves as an environmental buffer with the rising water, because after Storm Sandy, many of the homes in South Valley Stream were flooded. And I've been able to secure funding for improving the bulkheads along the waterway in Inwood, so that we don't see as much funding.
One of the big issues on Long Island when we talk about quality of life or health and safety even for the constituency has been the opioid crisis. Tell me about your work in that space.
It's a very good question. I've been able to pass legislation with my colleagues to get more help for people, whether it be a county hotline that you can call if your child or if someone you care about has become victim to this crisis, or also having workshops in my community like I did this year where we show people how to use Narcan. Narcan, again, is a drug that is a solution that you could use on someone, and you must go through certain training, and it could help prevent an opioid overdose. And so we had Narcan training in my community, and I was so happy to see that, and in fact one of the program coordinators for the program was so happy to see that a lot of people who normally wouldn't go to these programs, African American families, South Asian families, they came to this program because this crisis is affecting all
everyone.
of us.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you are up for re-election. Tell our viewers what you hope to do should you win.
With your support, I will continue my service to the community. There are some key issues that we must seek a resolution on. I'm trying to get an additional community center in Elmont for our community, and I've been in many negotiations with different individuals and different layers of government to create a community center in Elmont, a place for our kids, a place for our elderly to go to, especially after school when unfortunately some of our young people sometimes get involved in the wrong things. I want them to have a place to go. So I'm working very hard to create a community center in Elmont. In addition, I want to make sure that the Belmont project, the development at Belmont Racetrack, benefits our community. We're looking for a community benefits agreement where there be job training and more jobs for our young people, and also that they take on certain obligations to improve and clean up Hempstead Turnpike. That's a big issue. People want to see a clean neighborhood, and we want to make sure that a new neighbor is going to take part in that responsibility.
Right.
In addition, getting funding for other improvements, more traffic safety. There are a number of dangerous intersections right off the Southern State Parkway or near the Southern State Parkway or the Cross Island Parkway where we see many accidents. There was a very bad accident last year on Halloween where 4 kids were hurt by a car on Dutch Broadway. Since then, I've been able to get at least 8 new speed indicators on Dutch Broadway to improve things. But there are a lot of other dangerous intersections in the district, in Inwood or Valley Stream, that we need to address just to make things safer. That's my role as a county legislator, to improve our infrastructure, the roads we drive on. And so I know that right now people are getting distracted with what's going on in Washington and the president that is making a lot of outlandish comments and statements and actions. But local elections affect your lives more.
Your day-to-day, absolutely.
Your day-to-day affects the road that you drive, it affects the school that your children go to, the taxes you pay, there's a corruption tax. Instead of these people, people in this country criticize other countries and say those countries are corrupt. There's a lot of corruption here, and there's a corruption tax that people are paying. And then instead of paying these corrupt politicians, this money should be going to social service programs for our youth and for our elderly. And so,
in this regard, I have to stop you here because we have to close. But in closing, I want you to tell our viewers why it is important to vote and what they can do if they do want to, in fact, participate in this upcoming election.
Please get involved. Please vote, not just on November 5th, but in early voting starting October 26th. Or get involved. Call your local elected official and ask them how to get involved. I think we're going through a reawakening in our society, and people want to get involved. So please come to vote. I would love to have your support. I support all communities. A vote for me is a vote for you and your family. I'm running for re-election as legislator in Nassau County. Live in Elmont, Valley Stream, South Floral Park, Inwood, Northwood Mere. Please vote for Carrie Solanges. My initials are CS for common sense. I need your support, and I'm asking you to please not just vote on Election Day, November 5th, but if you can, vote early, starting October 26th. Even on Sunday and Saturday, you could cast your vote after you may go to church, or on Friday after you may go to the mosque. Please vote.
Carrie, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you being here with us, and we wish you all the best of luck in the upcoming election. Don't go anywhere. We are going to be back with more individuals that are up on the ticket, that are giving you the information you need to be an informed voter if you are, in fact, living on Long Island, New York. This has been a special segment of The Bottom Line. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back from break. You're watching The Bottom Line. We are continuing our coverage of local elections in Long Island, New York, in our quest to provide you with the most amount of information about the candidates and the issues. We are speaking with today Mr. Michael Montesano, the Assemblyman of the 15th District. Mr. Montesano, first of all, welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Mr. Montesano, you are the Assemblyman for the 15th District. For folks who don't know what this means, tell us a little bit about your area and what it is that your job entails.
So my district encompasses 130,000 residents, and I begin up north in Bayville, in the village of Bayville, and I come down what I refer to the 106, 107 corridor. So I have all the communities from Bayville into Bethpage.
Okay.
So I encompass Oyster Bay, the hamlet of Oyster Bay, Laddingtown, Locust Valley, Glen Head, Westbury, Newcastle, Jericho, Plainview, Hicksville, being the largest populace of the area that I cover, and the village of Farmingdale, parts of Bethpage, and Salisbury. So it's a very large district, and it's a very unique district, very diverse. So my job is I'm a state legislator. I work in Albany with a district office here in Hicksville on Old Country Road and Jerusalem Avenue, and I represent people in state government. We pass state legislation, we manage the state budget, and we address community needs as they regard a state level or local level.
When it comes to representing this district at a statewide level, now New York State is extremely diverse, and when people think of New York, they automatically think of New York City, but the state itself encompasses so many different types of localities. How do you make sure that your particular district gets a fair representation in Albany?
So what I do is, first of all, I attend many of the community civic organizations. I have mobile office hours in local libraries to meet with people. We send out a questionnaire, usually once every 2 years, to solicit input from the public. People will contact me directly, either by email or phone, with their concerns and pieces of legislation they would like to see addressed or opposed. And so it's based on being in constant contact with your constituents to get a feel for what they need and what they want to see happen. And then we balance that throughout what the needs are in the rest of the state. Since I'm a state representative, and although I concentrate my efforts and work on my district, some actions we take have an influence over the rest of the state of New York. And so we always talk about how diverse New York is. So we have New York City, then we have Nassau, Suffolk, and Westchester, another region, and then we have the rest of the state of New York. And the needs of these particular regions are very compelling. And since the population is diverse, the needs are diverse, the financial situations vary in these different communities. So it's a constant balancing act. But I always, when I take a vote on something or debate something, always in the forefront of my mind is the needs of my constituents and what their desires are.
Of course. Speaking of your constituents, what are some of the key pieces of legislation that you have worked on that you would like to share with our viewers today?
Well, so the main pieces are really, first of all, education is foremost in my assembly district. We have some of the greatest school districts located within my assembly district, and we see some, great output. Healthcare is another big issue for us on Long Island, and also we've been addressing, which is a very significant issue recently, is the opioid addiction crisis. So we passed legislation with substantial funding, not only for the treatment, but for training, for educational purposes, rehabilitation purposes, to get people back on, the road to recovery and becoming more productive, because that addiction has an impact on the business economy also, as well as health. So these are the different things that we address, of course, on Long Island. Infrastructure is a big issue. Our economy, so we've, we boosted the economy here on Long Island. We've attracted some new businesses. Medical development's been very substantial here on Long Island. Some hospitals open satellite units here, medical testing, medical equipment providers. So we've really boosted the economy in those areas.
What do you say to folks who are looking to start families, young professionals looking to move out into the suburbs, into parts of your district that may be hesitant because of the affordability factor?
So it's always an issue that comes up. And so when we look at the affordability, I think you have to be realistic and look at what are you getting for your money. So if you come out here to Long Island, especially here in Nassau County, and a lot of the communities in my assembly district, first of all, it's the type of house you get, the community you get, the property you get, but most important is the educational opportunities for your children. There are a lot of work opportunities here. So because we live a certain lifestyle here, and we get to deliver the types of services that we deliver as a state and the local governments provide. We have beautiful parks, state and local parks. We have many different things. There's a cost associated with providing those services and maintaining those services. So I think it's a conscious decision you have to make of where you want to be, where you want to raise your family, and you make an investment, because really that's what you're doing. You make an investment in the future for your family and your children.
Absolutely, and I think the education bit is already a driving force for young families looking to move out here.
And just an aside to that is also we have some of the finest healthcare providers here on Long Island, that treat all kinds of illnesses and provide all kinds of services, and that's an important factor also when you're raising a family.
Absolutely. Mr. Montesano, in closing, what message would you like to share with our viewers, not just about local government and their voice being heard in Albany, but if they are looking to get involved in the system, what they should do? Well,
I think it's very important for people, especially in today's times, to become more active in the political process, in the civic process. They could contact my office, and and we'd be happy to lead them in the right direction. But they should attend their civic community group organizations. They should interact with their elected officials and come to know their elected officials. In today's times of technology, everything is available on our websites. My whole biography is there, things that I do. Legislation I'm involved in, and so they should come to know who their elected officials are, be in touch with them, and the most important thing, with Election Day coming, they need to participate in the election process. As you may know, we've introduced early voting starting this year. So voting now starts October 26th and runs right through to Election Day. We have about 15 locations here in Nassau County, and the good thing is with early voting is you can vote at any place you so choose, except on Election Day you have to go to your registered poll, but before that you could go to anywhere and vote at your leisure. So I think people need to realize how important their participation in the election process is, and I think that's the first step they need to take, and then become more familiar with who their elected officials are, what they stand for, and are they getting their issues addressed.
Wonderful. I think that's some sage advice, and we certainly hope our viewers have benefited from this quick chat with you, and we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, this has been a special episode of The Bottom Line. We are out on Long Island, New York, covering the upcoming local elections, speaking with folks who are up for re-election and those who just have some good advice to share. So if you're a resident of these parts, make sure you get involved. And like the Assemblyman said, the process only works if you take part. So thank you for watching. This has been The Bottom Line.